death, and aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm Courtney.
And I'm MK.
And how are ya?
I'm good. Um, this past Friday, I went to my friend's 30th birthday party, and it was great. I have a picture. I have a we got tattoos of his face. Um, Temporary tattoos, obviously.
Right, sure. Like
Yeah,
they
but
passed them out.
yeah. Oh no, they
Nice.
helped put my friend Ann helped put them on everybody. I got mine on my ass.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
And part of it was because I had somewhere to be the next day that I didn't want the tattoo and I didn't trust that it would actually wash off as easily as she insisted it would, which
Hmm.
good thing because it didn't. I took a shower, still there. Fully doesn't even look like it got wet. Um, but also it was funny. And but it was my friend's husband's birthday. And so she looked at Dan and she goes, "How do you feel about the fact that my husband's face is on your wife's ass right now?" And he goes, not super comfortable with it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Not my favorite thing.
No.
Wow. That's so
Which
funny.
was so funny. But then yeah, we like had tacos and hung out and had drinks and played games. We played Jackbox, and we played Trivia Murder Party, but then we also played Quiplash, and I may have gotten 3 times as many points as anybody else in Quiplash.
Quiplash is so fun.
Um, one of the questions was who's a good boy? And I wrote Diddy.
Hmm. Yeah. Very timely, very timely.
Um, and then we played this game called Trunk Texting, which,
I get drunk texting,
yeah.
but like I've never heard of this game.
So everyone's board is like a metal, like looks like an iPhone. And you have little magnets that are text bubbles, and you roll a dice, and you get between 1 and 6 like text bubbles that you're allowed to use to answer. And then the cards will say like text your baby daddy how you got pregnant. And then you roll the dice, and if you have 3, you only get to use 3 text bubbles, but none of them are like complete sentences.
Right.
And you have to like put them together to try to form a message.
That is so fun.
It was amazing. We were like crying laughing. Um, and even Dan was saying wildly inappropriate things. Just makes my day.
Oh,
Makes my day.
Dan.
I know.
You're corrupting him.
I know. I can't wait. It's amazing. Yeah, and so it was just, and my friend, when she told me that most of the games that we had at the party, she put on her wedding registry and people like bought them for her shower. And I was like,
You can put
so
games on your wedding
yeah,
registry,
so
yeah.
now I will be spending some time adding some more things to my wedding registry. Um,
Excellent, excellent.
Yesterday, Dan was like, I swear there was something you told me you needed to put on the registry. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea. I remembered at about 11 o'clock this morning, it was a bread box.
That's the most random thing too.
Like, yeah, it was no, something that if I didn't get it, I could still live without. Like, not something that I
Right.
need, or
Not a necessity.
not a necessity and not a fun thing. Just
Right.
a bread
Just a
box.
thing. Yeah.
Yes. Well, it was so we got a new toaster and we were putting things out in the house and putting it on like counters and everything. And I was like, well, blah, blah, blah. And so we picked where the toaster was going to go. And then he was like talking about the counter space. And I was like, well, it makes sense because I want to put a bread box next to this. And he goes, oh, what? I said, like at my house where there's the little cabinet with the glass doors that you open and all the bread goes in there. He goes, you mean the place where the bread goes to die? I go, well, my parents overbuy bread. So sure, but you don't have to buy that much bread.
I also bought a loaf of bread when I came to your parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
Like we it's so
Right.
much bread.
So much bread.
Because I panic ordered at 3 a.m. from
Right.
Queens. Like I didn't
Right.
know I was worried.
But like my dad, when he wants a specific kind of sandwich, always wants a specific kind of bread to go with it. My mom uses the same kind of Italian bread for her toast all the time. but then also thinks that it's always appropriate to have plain white sandwich bread in the house in case anybody else wants it. And then there's also like bagels or English muffins or hot dog rolls or
Mhm.
hamburger rolls. So, and then my dad will be like, "Oh, I'm gonna make Indian food. Let's buy some naan," and then not make Indian food. So like, yes, in my house, bread goes to die on the bread box. But in a normal person's house, that's if the bread box just keeps it away from critters and moisture. Like it just keeps
Yeah.
bread not going stale.
Yeah.
And he made me seem like a crackhead because I wanted a bread box.
That is a reasonable request. While not a necessity, it is a reasonable request, and it
Right.
is a thing people have. Like,
Yes.
that is okay.
Because then also when you buy pastries and then you have 15 plastic Wegmans pastry containers on your counter, you don't need to have that because a bread box is a sealed box.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. One day I'm gonna murder him in his sleep and it's gonna be okay. But
It's fine. We'll cut that out of the recording so nobody can hold you responsible.
how are you today?
I'm okay. I have a lot of work to do today. So I have a lot of work to do today, tomorrow, and Tuesday, which is super fun. Because I did not do any work yesterday. I mean, I did some podcasty things, but not like
Wow.
work. And we went to Baton Rouge yesterday, so we had like a big friend day yesterday, which was really fun.
Yeah.
Um,
It looked fun
we
though. I liked the new car.
and no, it was beautiful. Yeah, Rachel got a new car. It's so comfortable. The seats, like my section of seats and the front seats,
Hmm.
all do heat or cooling seats.
Love that.
It's wild. And the
Love
third
that.
row only does heated seats. But like, oh my God, like all three rows do at least heated seats. It's so nice. It's so comfortable. It's like, like a little over an hour drive to Baton Rouge. So like we were in the car for a minute. There's 2 cup holders in every spot. So I have both of my beverages with me.
Love that.
It was perfect. Yeah. So we went, it also drives itself. It's an amazing car. And so we went to Baton Rouge and we met up with the friend group. And we were gonna do sushi masa, which is like you do like an all you can eat sushi,
Yeah.
but they don't take a table of 14.
Oh,
We all knew, but the friend group insisted they did. They did not. So we went across the way to this like hibachi place. And so we
I
got some
wonder.
hibachi.
I wonder if my all-you-can-eat sushi place would take a table of 14 because they have really long tables there.
I think ours would here in Metairie, but the one in Baton Rouge is really small.
Okay.
Yeah, and it already takes a really long time. Like if you have like a table of 4, you're there for minimum 2 hours. Like it's
Oh, yeah, that's
yeah. So I was 0% surprised that they were like, we cannot sit 14 people here. We're
right.
like, yeah, sure. So we went and had hibachi, which was really fun and it was delicious. And then I went to Top Golf for the first time ever. Have you ever done Top Golf?
I have not done Top Golf. I heard of it. I know what it is, and I think I would enjoy it, but I have not actually done it.
So I only vaguely knew what it was.
Okay.
This came about when we were at I don't know if I talked about this last week or not, so stop me if I did. But this came about we were at the Beetlejuice party because somebody mentioned Top Golf. And I was like, I've always wanted to do Top Golf, not knowing really what it was, except
Right.
golf related. That is all I knew. I've never played golf. I have not done anything but mini golf, so I don't know anything about it. But sounds fun. So I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple drinks. I'm like super in now.
Right.
And so like everyone's like, oh, what day? I was like October 5th. Like I'm back October 5th. So this is before I left for New York.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is the only weekend I'm available. Let us do
For
that
the rest
day
of my life.
for the rest of my life. And so everyone's like, okay, October 5th. Everyone else took that to heart. Me, gone, out of my brain.
Yeah.
I said it and never remembered it again. So I get back and everyone's like, great, let's play a Top Golf for this weekend. We're making reservations. I was like, what's happening? Again, out of my brain.
Yeah.
So, but we went. And so we had a group of 14. And we had like 2 bays beside each other. And basically, for those of you who don't know what Top Golf is, it's golf, but you like play games while you do golf, and everyone just like shoots balls into the ether, basically, into the field.
Yeah.
And so they had like an Angry Birds when you had to like on your turn, you were trying to like bust down the Angry Birds house. They had like what they call block party. And you like, if you were consistent, you got more points for hitting in the same blocks and like stuff like
Yeah.
that. I won 3 out
Oh.
of the 4 games. I didn't win the fourth one because it was a speed round. It was
Yeah.
not meant to be a speed round, but we were running out of time. And
Ah.
so we were all moving very quickly. And I accidentally hit 2 balls at one time because they kept like kicking him out so we could make sure that we didn't have to like wait for him. So we could just
Right,
literally
right,
keep
right,
hitting.
right.
And so that one was a little off kilter, but I won the rest of the games.
Nice.
And I was like, I've never like other people have played before that were not me.
Right.
Um, so that was fun. I had a good time. You know how I like winning things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we did that, and it was like 2 hours, and I've never drank that much water in my life, I don't think. But it was we had like these little like donut holes you could like inject with Bavarian cream and chocolate, and so that was a fun adventure.
Hmm.
And then we went to Kohl's, which is always fun because we don't have a Kohl's in New Orleans.
Really?
So yeah, and I got some new jeans, which I've been needing for a couple of years. So we got some new jeans and a couple of tops and stuff and a sweater. I spent like $30. Like it was
Love that.
amazing. Yeah. So that's how I am. I'm coming off of my big day of friend activities into
Sorry. I
working.
was gonna let you know that the closest Top Golf to me is in Cleveland, which is about a 3-hour drive.
Mm.
But then it reminded me of my other really good answer on Quiplash when it asked what cryptid roams the streets of Cleveland, Ohio, and I said MGK.
Excellent. I was like, who's from there? Who's from there? It's like I know it's gonna be something like that. That's funny.
But yes, so if you're ever in town and we have 3 hours to spare to
Or
drive,
6 hours.
yeah,
We need a full day because you're there for
yeah,
like an hour or two at the Top Golf.
yeah,
3 hours there, 3 hours back. Just make it a day trip.
just make it a day trip. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's plenty of things to do in Cleveland. Yeah,
Okay. I've only been the one time, and all I know
yeah,
about Cleveland is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
yeah. Like you've been to
and
the
the
Rock and Roll
Bowling for
Hall of
Soup
Fame.
song.
No, but like I mean, I love the Guardians, the baseball team, which by the
Oh,
way,
sure.
they won their first game in the playoffs yesterday.
Excellent.
Um,
I don't know
uh,
what's happening in baseball world. I don't keep up with baseball.
layoffs just started this week. Um, yeah, but I mean, and there's things that are like near Cleveland, like Cedar
Yeah.
Point. Have
Yeah.
you ever been there? You don't do rides,
No.
so it would be a waste of time for you because it's,
I heard it's nice though. I'll
yeah,
fare food and wander around.
that's true. Cedar Point is just like the wildest roller coasters ever.
Yeah. I'll
Well,
watch
and
you away from the ground.
they do have a Hollow Weekend, like a haunted house
Oh,
thing. So
that I'd be into.
yeah,
Maybe
but
next year.
yeah, maybe. Since it only goes through November 2nd, so you're a little screwed
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
no, no, no,
But
not this year. Not this year.
um, but yeah, so
So that's how I am.
yep,
Um, so before we really get into this adventure we're about to go on, would you like to bring us a little spiritual guidance?
sure.
Maybe some joy?
Um, maybe, yeah. No one likes to lose control, but as a surgeon, there's nothing worse. It's a sign of weakness, of not being up to the task. And still, there are times when it just gets away from you. When the world stops spinning and you realize that your shiny little scalpel isn't going to save you. No matter how hard you fight it, you fall. And it's scary as hell. Except, if there's an upside to free falling, it's the chance you give your friends to catch you.
Great. Excellent.
Yeah. So it
Encouraging.
was a little weird, but yeah.
If
If
you take
you're,
out all of the surgical elements, it is a very clear message, I feel
yeah, yeah,
like. So it was fine.
yeah,
It's fine. It was good. I'm not very good at giving up control. So, it is what it is.
yeah. No, I don't. My problem is I don't want to give up control, but also I'm not in control.
But I
I'm
don't want to do it either. Like, oh my gosh, I don't. That's my biggest problem is that like I don't want to give up control, but I also just don't want to do it. I want someone else to do it. I just want him to do it how I would have also done it. And that's not
Yeah.
usually how things go.
No, I just want to spiral.
Yeah. Oh, what a time. So today's episode is Hannibal, season 2, episode 11, Kono Mano, which is a dish of seasonal pickled vegetables. But it's delicious.
Probably.
It aired May 9th of 2014. It was rated 8.9 out of 10. So it did not break 9, which surprised me a little, but that's okay.
Yeah, that is genuinely surprising.
Yeah. And number 1 song is the same. Number 1 movie is Neighbors. And the number 1 book is The Target by David Baldacci. So on this day, a lot of things happened. A lot of random things happened. Kelly Rowland married Tim Witherspoon. I don't know that I knew they were married, but it seems, I don't know if they're still married. That's what I'm going to look up. It doesn't say if they're still married or not. I was looking at the wrong Tim Witherspoon because I for sure thought it was the boxer. Do you know anything about this relationship?
Nope.
Cool.
No, I just know that I was very drunk this day. That's what I know.
Oh, it's a different. She's married to. It's the SCP of music for Nickelodeon. They are still married. And then Mary Stewart, who was a British sci-fi writer for Crystal, she wrote Crystal Cave. She died. She was like 97. Like she was pretty old, but she died. It was the day that Apple was discussing buying Beats Electronics. It started coming out that they were talking about that.
Yeah.
I remember that. I was a big Beats by Drake gal. I was real into it, but then also because this was 2014, when I bought my laptop in 2015, I got a free pair of Beats, which was really nice because they had just finalized everything. And last but certainly not least, this is the day that it came out that Snapchat finally admitted that videos and photos don't disappear as you expect them to. That's not how this technology works.
Yeah. I graduated from college the following Sunday. Like I was done, but my actual graduation was the following Sunday. And so it was senior week. So I was back in Rochester for senior week, which literally my college had this thing called the Portka Crawl, which basically they locked up the one senior apartment building so nobody could get in or like nobody could come back in once you were in. Like it was the thing. And they basically did a bar crawl, a school-sanctioned, supervised bar crawl through all of the apartments in this apartment building. I have never been so drunk in my entire life.
Yeah, I don't think you've talked about that on here before, but you've definitely told me this story before.
Yeah.
It's wild to me that this even happened. Like,
yeah, it, I for sure don't think they do that anymore.
I feel like it's a legal liability. Like,
yeah, you couldn't do it unless you were staying on campus. Like you couldn't leave campus. And it was after school was over, so there were no underclassmen like left on campus. But it definitely feels like it should have been illegal. Yeah. I don't remember any of those things happening because I was shit-faced the whole day. So
well, so you know now. These are the things that happen on the day you don't remember.
Perfect.
I'm just here to like bring you back. Snapchat is always so funny because there's still people that like don't understand that's not how Snapchat works. And I'm like, no. Do you know how the internet works? Like,
yeah, here's the thing. Like when I send you a picture on Snapchat, you can't see it anymore.
Unless I save it.
Unless you save it. But pictures that I have taken on Snapchat are still on my Snapchat. Like they still exist. Sometimes though, I really wanted to save a picture and then I didn't. And I know it exists somewhere in the ether, but you can't always get it back the way you want it to.
Right.
But yeah, those nudes you took, they're still there somewhere.
Welcome to the world, people.
And
Yeah,
if you're okay with that, that's great.
That's fine. Just
You
know.
do you. Just know they're there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm so hesitant to put anything anywhere online because I'm like, I'm going to say something stupid or I'm going to say something that's going to get taken out of context because I have taken too many privacy law classes to know that there is no privacy in the internet.
Right.
Like, there's just not. Um, yeah, we started watching this show. Have you watched Colin from Accounts yet?
No.
So we started watching it. It's pretty good. It's an Australian comedy. And one of the episodes, her mom's dad is talking about all his friends on Snapchat. And she like this came out like 2 years ago. And she's telling him, she's like, that stuff's like there forever. And he's like in a panic because he's clearly not a good person. But like
Right.
and so that's now what I'm gonna think about forever. It's really funny. You should watch the show. We just started it, so we're like short,
Okay.
but it's pretty good. So our directors, David Slade, writers are Jeff Laming and Andrew Black. Couldn't find an editor connected. Their editorial teams, but not even anyone that was like head of the editorial team. There was like an assistant, and like it was very strange. So I'm sure there was an editor, but
Yeah.
not listed. And even under cinematography, it was just photography. Like it wasn't even like a video.
That's
Like
weird. That's
it was
so weird.
very strange. Yeah. So today, the guest star that we're going to talk about, if you cannot guess, is indeed Catherine Isabel,
Thank you.
who plays Margot Verker.
Yes.
And boy, has she done a lot that I didn't realize. Because first of all, she's been in like everything. She's been in like one episode of everything, which is, I knew, I recognized her.
Right.
But she's known for a movie called Ginger Snaps that I've never seen that apparently I need to watch after researching her.
You would love Ginger Snaps.
Sounds right up my alley. American Mary, Freddy versus Jason, and Insomnia. Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen any of her movies, but now I would like to watch all of them.
That's not true. You have seen at least one of her movies because you have seen a Cinderella story or another Cinderella story where she plays one of the stepsisters.
Was she in which one's another Cinderella story?
It's the Selena Gomez one.
I have not seen that one.
You haven't? Wait, no, is it?
I know.
It's not the Selena Gomez one. It's the second one, whatever the one. Is that the Selena Gomez one?
I think so. I've only seen the Brandy one and the Hilary Duff one.
Oh, well, the Brandy one is not a Cinderella story. It's just Cinderella.
Yeah, those are like the only two
okay.
non-Disney ones that I've seen.
Yeah, okay. No, she's in the second one with Selena Gomez. And then she was in something else that was like a similar vibe.
Yeah, she's been in so many things. She's been in everything.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't write anything else down because there was just so many.
Right.
I do have a couple of notes about things she's been in though. So stay tuned.
Okay.
So Emily Perkins, who was also in Ginger Snaps, it seems, they auditioned together on the same day. They apparently are like very similar people. They were born in the same hospital. They went to the same preschool, elementary school, and private school, and they're with the same talent agency. And they've played in a lot of movies. Like they've just had such a parallel career from the time they were literally born until now. And then she refuses to do nude scenes. That's one of the things she refuses to do. So she always has a body double. And when she got cast in Freddy vs. Jason, they had initially she had auditioned for one role and they had asked her to play a different role.
Yeah.
Turns out that role had 2 nude scenes that she was not aware of because they didn't tell her that. But she had a body double. And the last 2 movies she was in that did have nude scenes, it was the same body double. So,
okay.
Yeah. She was considered for the role of Rogue in X-Men, the one that Anna Paquin was in.
Okay.
That she ended up taking the role, which Catherine Isabel would probably have been better.
Probably, yeah.
Bless her heart. I want so much more for Anna Paquin than she offers. The first horror movie she ever watched was The Blob, which I haven't seen still, but I will watch it one day. And she almost auditioned for Alexis Rose in Schitt's Creek and decided against it, but then has come out since and she's like, yeah, Annie Murphy was obviously the perfect casting for that. Like, I'm glad I didn't audition. And last but certainly not least, she has had guest appearances on three of the longest running North American sci-fi shows, being Smallville, The X-Files,
And Supernatural.
and Stargate SG-1.
Oh, she was in Supernatural too, though.
Did I not say Supernatural?
No.
Oh, she is also in Supernatural.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah.
Is she?
So
it's probably a very minor role because I definitely don't remember it. But
it
does make sense because her first ever TV role was an episode as a kid of MacGyver.
Yeah. I was gonna say she's also been in like MacGyver and different stuff. So yeah, she's
my actual favorite role of hers is credited as Laughing Girl. It is in the movie Josie and the Pussycats where she's just in a store laughing and crying. That's literally the one scene she is in that movie, and it is amazing.
I saw that when I was going through her credits. I was like, I didn't even realize she's just been in everything.
Yeah.
So now we start. And we start with the demon deer overseeing what looks like another dead deer that is a body coming out of it.
Really fucking weird.
Just such a weird opening scene. This is a weird scene altogether. And oh my gosh, okay. And well, this video is going straight up to 200 views. And so Will is like born out of this deer's body. It's so strange. And then we start going through like weird scenes, visual scenes. We pass over a couple of birds, and then there's some like we see like cooking starting. And Hannibal is bringing Will a dish that is on fire, actively on fire. And we learn that this is roasted ortolans, which is illegal in most places now.
Yeah.
I have a quick fact about that. I was gonna look up more about it and then I didn't.
Right.
So, but the way it works, obviously, if you watch the episode, you have these birds that you like drown them when they're alive or something, and then you catch them on fire, and then you eat them whole, like bones and all. And it was, first of all, sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to wear like a shroud to like hide yourself from God while you're doing this like terrible act.
Some
like
cult shit. It's just some straight cult shit.
So culty. But it has been forbidden to consume in Europe since 1979 due to the protection of them being endangered. However, France took a lot longer to outlaw it and didn't actually outlaw it until 1999 because the French president Mitterrand, I don't know how to say his name.
Yeah.
It was his favorite dish. And so it didn't get outlawed because he loved having it until 1999.
That's so gross.
Yeah, it was a wild one. Yeah, so I just put this scene was really icky. Yeah. And Hannibal talks about how he doesn't hide from God, so they're not wearing anything over their heads. And he's like, the first time I ever had it was like euphoric. And I was like, this is so weird.
I'm so sorry, but I don't care how good the meat tastes. I don't care what the drowning and the burning do to the seasoning. Like, I'm not saying that the way we treat animals for slaughter is not fucked up in a lot of the places. Like, sure, we're not going to get into that question. I can't. What in fucking God's name do you mean? You put a whole bird, bones and all, into your mouth and the feeling was euphoric. Sometimes I get too much of the cartilage of a chicken wing in my mouth and I want to vomit. I can't even, I end up peeling my chicken wings off the bone because I don't want to eat too much of the cartilage. Putting a whole bird in my mouth sounds like literal, like, medieval torture.
Yeah. Yeah. I would immediately throw it up. Like, I can't imagine it tastes good enough to eat all of that.
No. Nope.
Ugh, no. Nope. Yeah. But Will then goes on to say he was euphoric when he killed Freddy. So I was like, these two things are not the same, but okay. Glad
Yeah,
you're
that was definitely a statement.
it was definitely a statement. And I was like, glad you're living up to this potential that Hannibal is setting for you. Can't wait. Um, and then we go over to a parking garage where a man's just minding his business and doing his job when a wheelchair with a burning body just skates right on through into Freddie Long's parking space.
I'm gonna be real with you. I didn't realize that it felt like it was a different show. Like just the lighting and the choices for that scene, while I get it and where it went, I'm totally fine with. I literally thought I sat on my remote and changed the channel or something because
It felt like Ghost Rider.
it was the biggest non sequitur I've ever
Mhm.
seen.
So the only reason that scene's even in there is because there's a very similar scene in one of the Hannibal movies. And so it was meant to mirror that.
Which is great. They did not transition into it as
They
well
did
as I could
not
have hoped
transition
for.
well. No, absolutely not. The lighting was weird. It was a
Because
odd
here's
choice
the
for the way it
thing, even
happened.
when they did homages to the shittiest Hannibal movie that exists, they did it well. Like
Yeah.
the deer head scene with the rope and the tree
Hmm.
was done really well. So I'm not saying that they can't do scenes from movies and do them well. I just thought I
No,
was
it was a
watching, it was a
stretch.
stretch.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But that's when we got our credits.
Yeah, so
So
basically, this episode's great except for maybe the reason it didn't break nine is everything that happened before the credits. Because,
yeah, maybe so. Everybody's like, I don't think I could give 9 to illegal bird eating in a
oh,
weird scene about a burning body that doesn't look like it fits in the show.
right.
So
Mm.
I get it.
But
Don't worry.
then post credits, things are gonna get great. It
Off the
was just,
rails.
ooh.
Yep. So then we go to the lab and we are confirming that this is Freddie
Hmm.
based on dental records. Um, Will's there, of course, because
Of
he's,
course.
always consulting.
Yep.
So not weird at all. And we learn that he cut out her
Yeah.
sciatic muscles.
Some muscle in her back.
Yeah, I do think I copied the word directly from the TV
I
screen,
believe
but
you.
I can't
Doesn't mean
read
you
it
know how to
now.
pronounce. Yeah.
Doesn't mean I know how to say it. And he says that it was like so Hannibal started talking about it and he's like, oh, it was like, this was a sacred thing that happened. This wasn't a violent murder. Like, even though, I mean, it was violent, obviously, but like, it wasn't meant to be just a murder. Like, it was sacred. And Will says, he's like, yeah, she had to burn. Like, that it had to be done this way because we learned that the body wasn't burned until after she was already dead. Like,
Yeah.
that's not how she died.
Right.
And so Will's like, she had to burn and the killer's going to rise from the ashes. And you're just like, you are really creating your own villain story with
Right.
Hannibal's help. And it
Let me
is,
the the conversation that happens in the room where the two of them, because it's not the first time, because last episode when they were talking about it with what's his name?
mm-hmm,
Swati too. Um
Randall's.
yeah, Randall's.
Mm-hmm.
Um the conversations they have where they're describing themselves while also trying to separate themselves, it it is really concerning.
Very concerning. And it
Like
feels like it's a little more obvious than it should feel like. I feel like, but also like, I mean, we know more than
we
everyone
know
else in the
more
room.
than
So,
yeah. But
you know,
also we now know even more than that and it's just it is some layered shit
it
that
is.
it
It
is
is.
fucking wild.
Oh God, this episode was so well done. Um, so then we go to Margot and she's talking to Hannibal. Well, we see that she's gone through a lot. She's talking to Hannibal and she tells him that she's become pregnant. And this pregnancy was from Will when they slept together 30 minutes ago. Um,
But
and
also on the scenes, Wait, what did this happen in the episode, or was there something in the scenes from last week that I missed about her wanting to have a baby?
Okay, I think it didn't happen. Because I rewound the beginning credits because I was like, I never heard her say this, but they played it in the opening credits like
They
it was
played
a
it in the
previously seen
previously on.
on.
They played it in the previously on.
Yes,
And then Hannibal was like, "Did you tell him you wanted to get pregnant?" And I was like, "When the fuck did that happen?" I feel like we would have brought that up.
right. And so I don't
Okay.
know if maybe she said it in the very first episode she was in, and it felt
And
like a
we did,
passing
and
statement
we didn't
because
think
it
about
didn't
it,
matter.
and we didn't know who she was or anything, so we just like,
Right. Yeah, because I had that exact same thought because I was like,
okay.
this did
I
not
was
happen
I was
last
like I was like,
episode.
did I lose my mind? I was like, I'm gonna be honest, occasionally, especially with some of the more recent Hannibal episodes, I kind of have been not as emotionally invested in them. And so it wouldn't surprise me if I just completely missed something, but I feel
Yeah,
like we would have talked about it. So
right.
then
Yeah.
so then I was like, when we record, I need to know, did I make this up?
No, you did not make it up.
Okay.
I also was at a loss. My assumption is it was the first episode we met her in when they're having their session
Okay.
about how her brother is dying and there's no other heirs. Like
Got
that's
it.
my assumption. Um, but yeah,
That does
so
make sense, but it wild.
right. So she's going through this talk with Hannibal and Will's there too. Just
Just in the
just
room.
there. And she's telling he's like, what do you like? Everybody's like, what do you want from me? Like what? Like I didn't even know this was a thing. And she's like, oh, you can be as involved or as much or as little as you want. Like a male influence is great, but
She's
you
like, but
like I don't ever have to see you again if you don't want me to.
yeah,
Like
she's like, if you
it's
want to be involved in the baby's life, like go for it. I will be glad to have you. I've read studies that a male influence is a good thing for a child. She
well,
goes,
she doesn't have examples of it, so yeah.
very, very fair. And she was like, but my plan to get pregnant had nothing to do with you, and it doesn't have to have anything to do with you, and you were just the easiest path there.
You were just the right place, the right time. Or wrong place, the wrong time, depending on which side you're looking at.
Right.
Um, yeah. And so then we go and she says something about her brother, like how he is with the children and how it's like he's not good with children. And so then we go to a scene with Mason with children. And it turns out they have like a summer camp that happens. And so like I don't think we have all of our details yet for
No,
that.
we don't have the details yet because this scene,
It's super creepy.
it's super creepy, super unnerving, and then we don't find out the details that makes it make sense till later in the episode.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is happening?
So Mason's talking to this child who like is looking at the horses and he's being such a creep. And he just starts telling him
But
that
also,
he
also
can't go
like,
home.
yeah, but also not just creepy, like fucking horribly sadistically rude and
Yeah,
creepy. He's like,
right.
he's like, nobody wants you, nobody loves you. You're a foster child because everyone hates you.
Yeah, he's like, isn't there something wrong with you? Like, you know that. And he tells him, he's like, you can't go back to your, like, what is it, Shirley and someone, Mom and Shirley or something.
Yeah, like your
Like
foster
after
mom.
next week. Like, you're done at their house after next week. So I don't know. Like, no one wants you. And it's so mean. And then, so of course, this child starts crying and he
Right?
starts capturing the tears from this child crying. And I was like, what is wrong with you? There are
Okay.
so many things wrong with you.
That I need more information about his weird tear
Tear
obsession.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he gives this child chocolate and sends him his way. And I was like, that is not the solution. But okay, that's fine. Um,
Chocolate fixes everything, right?
so then we go to Will's house and he's having a nightmare about burning Freddie. And then Bloom shows up. And he's like, I thought we didn't make like friendly house calls anymore. Like I thought we were done with that. She's like,
Yeah.
this is not a friendly visit. She's like, I have some things to figure out.
Mhm.
And so of course she brings up that she's worried that he's killed Freddie. And he's like, sure, sure, sure. Like
Got it.
totally makes sense. Totally get that. Um, and he all but admits to it basically is what it
Right.
sounds like he's saying to her. And then he's telling her, he's like, yeah, but you should be afraid. Like, and if you're afraid of me, fine, whatever. But you should also be afraid of Hannibal. Like, this
Yeah,
is situation.
Will's basically like, I have no longer have enough space, and mental energy to give a shit how you feel about me. But since day one, I have tried to tell you that this guy's fucked up. And if you think that I'm more fucked up since hanging out with him, you might want to look at him.
At
Like,
him.
just
Yeah. So he gets her a gun and he's like, shoot whoever scares you. He's like, even if that's me, I don't even care anymore.
right.
Just, if you feel frightened, shoot. And find a range and learn how to do it. And so then we go to Hannibal and Mason, which I
This is the
was
worst thing that has ever
so worried
happened.
that this is how we've started. Yeah. And he's, being a therapist with him or whatever. And
Yeah.
we learn that he's gotten like 500 hours of community service for the way that he's been treating the kids at this like summer camp. Like, but he's, an heir to a estate of this rich man that
Right.
he doesn't go to jail. He just gets community service. But turns out everyone that had like to turn in reports for him or whatever, he just like conned them with either probably money, but it sounds like weird other favors too, so that they just kind of wrote down whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
His therapy never happened. They had a really fun ongoing relationship. It was very strange. Um, we also learned how delusional he is about his dad, which Hannibal points out that he's like, you've put him on this pedestal, but he's not a great guy.
Right.
Like, not great. And you've just put him there. And this is where Hannibal brings up that there could be another heir. And he's like, there's this loophole, like, that you seem to have missed.
It just says
Like,
a male heir descended. It doesn't say how many generations. What
and at that
what is
moment,
wrong with you, Hannibal? Well, I mean
you've
everything.
never,
Everything is wrong
everything.
with you.
Yeah.
But I have never, like, this might be the first time that I was like, no, I hate you.
Yeah. I've never wanted to punch someone more.
Because Margot, while she's probably not great, because no one on the show is,
Sure.
Margot is 1000% a victim.
Yes.
Like,
And
nothing that Margot
so
has
much better than
done,
Mason.
nothing that Margot has done is not justified. Every
Yeah.
single thing she has done has been because her entire life has been abused by her father and her brother. Everything.
Yeah.
And now her
And
psychiatrist is also abusing and like her. So like she literally has no one in her life except for Will, who actually gives a shit. But we'll talk about that later.
we'll get there.
We'll
Don't
get
worry.
there because
We're going to unpack all of this like a big therapy session. So,
right. The
yeah.
season wrap up for this season is going to be wild.
So bonkers. Oh my gosh.
Because
Yeah.
and at this point I feel like we don't even know that if Will actually does care.
Don't know anything. I feel like
Right. But so Margot's whole life has just been scraping to have a single edge up. And she
Yep.
finally had one. And Hannibal does the worst thing ever by telling the
Yep.
last person who should know.
Mm-hmm. So we then go off to Freddie's funeral. And Bloom is there, and Will also shows up. And she is just
Neither one of them actually at the funeral, just creeping.
Right. Just nearby. And my God, she's gonna die like tomorrow. Like she's too far in. But
Yeah.
she's clearly so shaken. And she's like, why are you here? It's not to mourn. And he's like, well, there's a lot of reasons I could be here that aren't mourning necessarily. And he starts talking about how killers, of course, show up at their victims' funerals and stuff like that, like your stereotypical
Yeah.
murderer. And he's like, yeah, it could be any of these reasons. She's like, and he's like, I could be here to scope out, like, who
Mhm.
could have done it? Like, they always show up. And she's like, does that include you? And he's just like, yeah, whoever. Like, he's so, oh my God, like, he's so disconnected emotional. I feel like he's disconnected his empath side because
Mm-hmm.
he has to. He has to. There's no way out
Yeah.
around it.
How would you even
Um,
function?
mm-mm. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I'm barely functioning, and I'm not an empath. I'm just a regular person.
Even
Like
even if he only did half of what we think he's done. Even if he's only done half of what we think he's done.
he would feel guilt every second of every day.
Every second of every day.
Or he's a psychopath. It's those are your options. Those are
Mhm.
the only two options.
But even if you're a psychopath, if you're empathic while being a psychopath, your problem is that you're feeling every other person's emotions and not your own.
Right.
And he's surrounded by people who are absolutely, like, let's be real. We want to get into the psychology of it. No one in his life, psychopath or otherwise, is there because they're emotionally stable. The
Right.
trauma runs deep. And for him to just be living in a bubble of nothing but chaotic psychological trauma, he would have offed
Yeah.
himself.
Absolutely. He would have had to. So that's how you know the show isn't real. If you needed anything else, you need elements of it. Um, but yeah, so they go back and forth this conversation a lot. And then we go to Hannibal and Will. And they start talking about the new baby. And Will's like kind of opening himself up to it. And Hannibal's like, this could be it. Like he's like, I've never had a kid, but I was, I was, basically my sister's dad. Like I took care of her when everything was happening. Um, and then they of course bring Abigail back up. And
Mhm.
he's like, she reminded me so much of Abigail. And, you know, how all of that went down. And then he kept saying very vague things about Abigail. And he's like, well, he said, what happened to Abigail had to happen.
Mhm.
And Will's just like, I just don't understand it. He's like, I still like dream about her. Like, I still can't get past it. Like, he was so bonded to her. And Hannibal says that he's like, I'm sorry I took that away from you because they're friends, whatnot.
Yeah.
And he was like, I wish I could give it back to you. Like, this man, just don't kill people. Like, and we wouldn't come up with this problem.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then they come up with this metaphor, kind of a metaphor. It turns into a metaphor. It starts out as a physical of a shattered teacup. And
Mm-hmm.
he's like, some days I just get so like oversells on a word he used, but he's like, I just shatter a teacup and then hope that the pieces come back together when they never do. And then of course, we see a very nice visual
Mm-hmm.
of shattered teacups and like
Yeah.
reforming and shattering, and it's interesting to see
Mm-hmm.
what we're going to bring back to life. So we go back to the graveyard because um, Freddy's body has been unearthed and is made into a deity. Um, and Bloom, everyone's there as they always are.
Of
And
course.
Bloom is the one who brings up. She was like, the same person who killed Freddy is the same person who killed Randall.
Yeah.
And Will starts talking about the killer being guided. He's like, I think it's more that it's not necessarily like the killer that's doing all of it, but I think he's being guided by another like benefactor who is,
Yeah. Like
creating this new
ba-
idea. And
basically, yeah, not just like because the deity that she'd been formed into is Shiva, who's a Hindu deity.
yeah,
And he was like basically bringing up that like it's not just the deaths that are guiding him, there is a teacher somewhere, basically.
right. And so then um and this is where I was like, Bloom's getting way too close because
Oh
she's like,
yeah.
it's a courtship. She's like obviously picked up that it's Hannibal and Will. And
Mm-hmm. Which about fucking time.
my God, it took long enough.
Like
Like,
I'm kind of sad that you've figured it out because now you will die. But
right.
like
But
also,
also like it
where have
took you
you
way too
been?
long. Yeah. Um, so then we're with Mason and Margot, and he's like keeps telling her that she has this oh my God, what word did he use?
A glow, a bloom.
Glow, a bloom, that's the word. he kept saying that she has a balloon, and starts talking about another heir. I thought at first that he was going to try and impregnate her
That's
and
what
claim
I
her
thought. The way
baby.
he was talking about we need another heir and we need another
Yeah,
baby, and I know my if I have a baby, it'll be a boy. Like I thought he was about to just like rape her in the stable.
me too. I was very
I was
uncomfy about
I was
that.
not prepared. I was like, I can't watch
Yeah.
that.
Turns out he was just saying creepy things, but didn't sound like he actually intended to have a child with her. He just was going to have a child, and she was not. That was the plan. But because
Yeah.
he was like, "You'll make a great auntie." I'm like,
Hmm.
well, she kills everyone involved, but that's
Yeah.
fine. Um, but he's like, if he was like, I want to have a son, it'll bring us closer together. And she's like, sure, yeah, maybe. Um, and at this point, it seems that he's still kind of like on the fence about whether or not he believes she's pregnant, but obviously he thinks she is. Because
Yeah.
he says it later. He's like, it doesn't matter if she's pregnant or not. Like, I don't need
Yeah.
to really know. So then we go to Hannibal and Will, and they're still talking about Abigail. And they're talking about how Hannibal sacrificed Abigail because he did care about her
Hmm.
and in his way that he cares about people. Um, and then he's like, well, what about God's sacrifices? Like, it's he does that too. And it's like, that's not the same, but okay. Um, and this is where Hannibal brings up that it was like Will was losing a child when he lost Abigail because he had kind of taken on her father figure. Um, and that now this new baby can replace her, can be like his second child. And then there is again the dear demon, now
Yeah.
deity, in the room as we pan out, which is fun. So we start to see how kind of like Hannibal is becoming more into the sense of trying to compare himself to a god as opposed to just a man that thinks he's better than everyone else. Um, so that feels dangerous. But we go to Hannibal and Mason, and
Yeah.
they're talking about swine fairs because Mason grew up. Obviously, we know he has the pigs, and he grew up with his dad going to swine fairs, and he's like, yeah, he would always have this knife in his pocket, the one I have now, and he would just pull it out and stab them in the back to check their like, the fat
That
levels and everything, and see kind of which ones were the best. Um, and then he starts talking about how he's had to test Margot in the same way. And we've seen the scars, so we know that
no.
something had happened to her back, and now we know what it was. So that's upsetting. Um,
Yeah.
and this is where he starts talking about like, even if she's not pregnant, she will be soon. Like, this is her new plan. I understand
Yeah.
that now based on what you've said to me about
But
having an heir.
also in this scene, so Hannibal is a heartless piece of shit. We have figured that
Mm-hmm.
out. He is says and does the most fucked up things ever. And then he has these random moments where he like pretends that he gives a shit about animals. And it's very
Yeah.
disturbing to me. Like, because he's like, please kill your brother. It would be so great. I love it so much. And then he's like, hey, um, you shouldn't stab 4-H pigs. Part of their judging is on how happy they are. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. Which also sometimes is a psychopathic tendency where they tend to care about animals and not people.
Yeah, it
So
is
who's to say?
fucking wild.
Yeah. Um, so then, oh, I was like, why am I starting the same page? I'm not. So then we go back to Bloom and Hannibal, and she's clearly still a little frantic, and she's like telling him how Will's making her paranoid. She's like, he just keeps saying stuff that kind of like is pushing me over the edge. And he's like, oh, well, we're never really going to be alone in this room because Will is always here with us. Um, and she starts like questioning he's like, are you questioning my therapy? Because she's like, I don't even know what's going on. And she's like, I'm questioning everything.
Everything,
So she's
yeah.
like, absolutely. And I was like, I thought he was going to stab you right then, but
I really did.
with
I
time.
really did.
Yeah. And then he starts asking her, he's like, have you shot a gun recently?
Well,
And we
because he
had a
goes,
really cool scene with
yeah, he
the
goes to kiss her hand to like try to calm her down, but he like smells and the gunpowder on her
Mhm.
hand.
Yeah. And so because we know he has a good sense of smell, he can smell encephalitis. So but she admits to it. She's like, yeah, she was like, I told you, I've been nervous, like
Yeah.
obviously. And so we go to Margot, who's packed her bags, is running away in the rain. We have about 3.5 seconds of hope that she's just going to disappear and have a happy life, or go to Will, or literally anything
Yeah.
else. But alas, she is T-boned by a large truck, and it is indeed Mason's hitman, Carlos, or assistant. I don't know if he's just a hitman,
Yeah.
but,
He's
but
something.
he is also indeed a hitman. Like,
Oh,
um,
Carlo, you suck.
yeah. And so then we go to this lab that Mason has with like a medical table and stuff in it. And Mason
And
is
also
also,
like the creepiest culty like doctor outfits I've ever seen.
yeah, he's in the worst scrubs. He's like strapped her down or made her where she can't move. I don't know if he's
Right.
given her something or strapped her down. Um, and he tells her that he's going to make sure she can't have children. And this also very upsetting scene.
Yep.
Um, and then he of course collects her tears as well. So that's awful. Um, and so we go to Bloom and Jack, who she's like, I'm losing all of my mind. I have no idea what's going on. You're killing people. Will's killing people. Like everyone's killing people now. Everyone's
She's like,
wrong.
I quit.
And Jack is like, breathe. Everything's okay. Please breathe. And it sounds like she thinks he's the Chesapeake killer, like, or Chesapeake Ripper or whatever. It's so
Well,
wild.
she doesn't know who
And
anything is, but she's like, Jack, I need you to be honest with me. Like, I feel like I don't know what's going on. And
yeah.
she's like, do you believe that Will killed Freddie Lumps?
And he's like, no.
And no, he says yes. Well,
Oh, I
'cause-
thought he said
yeah,
no about this one because he said the next one when it came to the
well,
Chesapeake Ripper, he didn't
yeah.
answer.
Well, no, he did too. She said, do you believe Chilton was the Chesapeake Ripper? And he starts to, he goes, there was an overwhelming amount of it. She said, you're a liar. Stop lying
Yeah,
to me. Like, I don't know. I don't trust anyone right now. At least let me trust you.
right. And she's like, none of us know Hannibal, none of us know Will. And he's like, let me show you something. And I thought he was about to bring us to a room with like red string, like where he's been tracking everything and he knows what's going on, even though it seems like he's missed out on
I
some stuff.
I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
But it's not. He opens the door and Freddie Lounds is there. I have never gasped so loud in my life because I know I said what last week or whatever that I was like, maybe she's not dead. I was like,
Yeah,
maybe it's a secret. Like maybe, something else happened because we had the whole parallel to Miriam and then Miriam wasn't dead. So maybe like it'll come up. And then this whole episode, I was like, I was totally wrong. She's dead.
right.
She's burned alive. Like there's no question. Not at all. I was wrong. Was not wrong. Super alive. Healthiest she's ever looked. Like,
Well, but then the question for me was like, so if Freddy's alive, if Jack knows this, if the other guys in the lab are in on it, who are they trying to trap? Will or
or
Hannibal?
Hannibal. Yes. Right. So then it's like, what is
Right.
going on? Like, what is next? And don't worry, that's all we get of that. And so then we go to Will and Hannibal, and they're checking on Margot in the hospital, who has obviously been very badly injured. And then we go to Mason, who's feeding the pigs when Will arrives.
Mhm.
And Will punches him, and we think he is about to just send him straight into the pig pen,
Well,
but he doesn't.
first Will knocks Carlo out so that he can get to Mason.
Right. Yeah. And he holds him down and tells him that none of this was free will. He says, you like Margot was told to get pregnant. Like we were put together for a reason. And then you were told to make her not be able to have kids. And then I was told to kill. Like he's like, we were all influenced by Hannibal.
Yeah.
And then
He was like, we've all
yeah,
done fucked up things, and what's the only thing the three of us have in common?
yeah. And he pulls a gun on him. And he tells them that I'm not the one you should be feeding to the pigs. It's Hannibal. That's the end of the episode.
Fucking wild.
Most insane thing. Like the fact that this episode, I was like on the fence about being like, this could be what's gonna happen. I wouldn't be that caught off guard if she was still alive.
Yeah.
And then this entire episode spent the time like convincing me I was wrong
Yeah.
to then show me that she is still alive and still shock me that much. Like,
and then also, how much of last week did we spend commiserating how quickly Will and Hannibal joined forces and how we were so upset about it? And then, like, did they?
right.
But like now I'm
Who's
questioning.
to say?
Now I'm questioning what has Will done at all? How much
I mean,
we
know he killed Randall Tier.
yes.
We know that he killed the first guy, that Abigail's dad.
Yes, but Abigail's dad,
both in self-defense.
Yeah, Abigail's
work.
dad was self-defense. Like, and no, Abigail's dad was work and
Yeah.
like saving Abigail because he was about to kill
Mhm.
her. And Randall Tier was genuinely self-defense. Like the guy broke
Right.
into his house trying to kill him. But
So what else?
then it's
Did he do
and that's why I
anything
said
else?
earlier in this episode, if Will's done even half of what we think he's done, but what has he done?
Right.
And if this is all a long con, how long ago did it start? Like what?
Like at what point did we start this plan? And I mean, it was ages back that he like, which we'll get into a little bit in the next episode. I forgot, so I'll leave that for later. But
Yeah.
like ages ago, things were mentioned that were then re-mentioned coming up. Like, and it's like, when
Yeah.
did this?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It is so wild. I know, like I talked to Caitlin's boyfriend Brian, and he kept trying to tell me how it happened, and I was like, stop trying to tell me about the season. But he was just like, the second half is gonna blow your mind. It's like it is so
Well,
much.
and you had
not
told me
wrong.
that the second half was going to blow my mind, but then the second half started with two of the worst episodes
Really
of the
slow.
show.
Yeah.
They were so
Mhm.
slow, and they were introducing new characters that I didn't care about. And I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know, man. But whoa.
Bonkers. Yeah, I don't have any trivia for you. I told you my trivia throughout.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts before we start punching people? Like predictions? What do you think is gonna happen?
Well, the problem is all of my thoughts are going to spoil next week's episode. So
okay.
I don't want to talk about them yet
That's fair.
because it's hard to do predictions when we've already watched the next episode.
Yeah.
So,
That's fair. So then who do you want to punch?
I know it's not entirely his fault. I get the whole Hannibal being a part of like fucking with his head, but like fuck Mason. He made children cry.
Like,
And
that was
also
before Hannibal. Like,
yeah, like the mutilating his sister, how many other ways could he have gotten rid of her having a baby without mutilating her? Like he is
Right.
fucked up. Like whether Hannibal's influencing him to do things or not, he is fucked up.
Yeah, no, he's also who I would have chosen. But because you picked him, I will pick Hannibal.
Yeah.
You know, he needs a swift punch to the face.
Yeah.
So who's your MVP then?
I'm gonna go with Chad. He wasn't in this episode a lot, but he did have Freddie hiding in the FBI building, which is fucking wild.
So wild. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Will
Fair.
because
That's
clearly,
the other one I was thinking.
yeah, not as bad as we thought, even if he's doing some things off the rails. Like it does seem like we still have a similar end goal of getting rid of Hannibal and not killing people. So
Right.
I'm gonna go with Will. Yeah. Well, in that case, we could just come back next week and we'll keep talking about this. It's just wild.
Yeah.
But if you have any questions, comments, concerns, etc., feel free to email us deathandaliens@gmail.com. You can find us on all of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can find me at CECloud13.
And you can follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And we will see you on Sunday for a Sci-Fi Sunday.
Bye.